Hi. Did you know nobody wants to work anymore? Surprise! I have a secret. No one ever wanted to work. That's why you have to pay them money.
1, 2, 3.
So come on in to a place that is fun. I'll be your friend and you can be mine. The world is a stream of constant bullshit, but that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of good shit. You start with the lean and we can make something different. Let's build a world that is good.
This is a show for adults. Hi, friend. Welcome to the good world. My name is Seth. I have no idea what I'm going to say today, and neither do you. That's the fun of a live stream. But I have been thinking about it a little bit, so I was catching up with a friend yesterday, and she was telling me about a problem she's having at her job, where basically there is some work that needs to be done, right? It's a data processing, data management task, the details of which would be incredibly boring and would drive you away instantly, so I won't get into the details. But the gist of it is that there's work that has to be done. And there's a question of, should the client be doing the work, or should the company that my friend works at do the work? And the answer, in business, the answer is generally that the company should do it, because no one is going to pay you so that they can do more work. But what I realized in thinking about it is that the problem is that nobody wants to do the work because it's tedious and it's boring. They don't want to do it. And we have this, there's a thing that in some corners of the internet is kind of a running joke, but it's also a thing that people genuinely say a lot. It's a thing people have said to me personally before, which is no one wants to work anymore, right? People complain, nobody wants to work anymore. People used to want to work. Now they don't want to work. And there's a phenomenal thread on the entity formerly known as Twitter, in which someone compiles examples of the phrase "nobody wants to work anymore," going back literally over a century, going back to the late 1800s, if memory serves. And people, for as long as we could document it, are complaining, nobody wants to work anymore. And there's a friend of mine in seminary class over the weekend was telling us about how there's an ancient Sumerian tablet where someone is complaining about shoddy craftsmanship and basically saying nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to do a good job anymore. And the realization that I come to thinking about all of this is, well, yeah, that's because work is annoying, right? There are parts of work that maybe people enjoy. Right, I'm doing this right now for free. In a dream world, this becomes a thing that I can do to support myself and my spouse. But right now, I'm doing it for free, sort of on spec, and I'm doing it partially because I sort of enjoy the exercise of thinking about what to say in the moment and sort of the challenge that it gives me, and I enjoy the possibility that someone on your end of the camera will get something out of this. So that's why I'm doing this work. And I do kind of enjoy it. What I do not enjoy is having to write up episode notes, having to generate clips to post on TikTok and Instagram. And there's technology that can do that for me, which is great. But the only reason that technology is there is because it's not super fun work. It's not a thing that people enjoy doing. And if you look at pretty much anything that any of us call work, we're usually using that term to refer to something that's annoying that we don't want to do. Even in the past, I was a political consultant for about 8 years of my life. I worked in political campaigns doing data science. And there were parts of that were really exciting and fulfilling, but there was a lot of it that was really tedious, right? I had to write and debug a lot of code, which can be sort of an interesting puzzle, but also when it just won't work and you have to spend like hours figuring out where is the bug in this code, that's really annoying and it's really tedious, and nobody would choose to do that if they weren't getting paid. And often the people who are out there saying nobody wants to work anymore are the people who are trying to pay someone else to do the work that they don't want to do. Right? Susie and I live in California. There are wine growing regions everywhere around us. And I remember a couple years ago, we were at a winery and we were talking to the winery owner. And she said, it's so hard to find people to manage the vineyard. It seems like nobody wants to work anymore. And it's like, well, if you think it's such desirable work, why aren't you just managing the vineyard yourself? Why are you hiring people? That's because it's not fun. It's kind of tedious. But the way that money works is that if you have something that's kind of tedious that you don't want to do and you can find someone else to do it, then you can pay them and they'll do it. But the truth is, if we didn't have money, there is plenty of work that would get done because people would enjoy it. And sometimes, agriculture was invented probably before money. And so agriculture was helpful for survival. There are lots of things even before agriculture when we had hunters and hunter-gatherers, they would hunt and they would gather. That's also work, but that's like necessary for survival. Me being a farm laborer and picking grapes for someone is not necessary for survival outside of the construct of a financial system that means that I require money in order to survive. So we've sort of abstracted survival needs and commodified them into a way where people who have a lot of money and a lot of capital can get out of the work they don't want to do by paying money to someone who is willing to do that work in exchange for the money. And I am certainly not the first person to say this, but the idea that nobody wants to work anymore is really just nobody wants to work for as little as you're trying to pay them. Because if you're willing to pay more, you can probably find someone to do the work. So that's a thing that I've been thinking about. And in my own life, I find a lot of work that is necessary to be really tedious. I'm sure plenty of other people out there do too. And even just I've been for 4 years now, sort of trying to get myself to get this YouTube channel off the ground. It's not just YouTube. It's a whole social media branding. I love branding. But in order to get it off the ground, I have to do some work. And I have sort of reached this point where I have continually kicked the can down the road, right? I started seminary. I took on an entire educational program that is going to end up taking me 2.5 years. And part of the benefit of that was that it could let me put off the process of trying to do this work. Because this work is, as I said, there are things about it that I enjoy, but it's more challenging. It pushes me more. And so I'm in the process of figuring out how to do that. And so the reason actually that I switched from doing recorded videos to now I'm on my second live stream is that every time I recorded a video, I would then have this video and I'd be like, okay, now I need to edit it. Now I need to do all these things and like cut the silence and change camera angles and like add in different things and make it all fit in the box it's supposed to fit in. And that work is annoying, and that is work that I don't really like to do. And it's also work that I don't really have the money to pay someone to do for a long period of time. And so it's work that I just didn't do because, again, work is annoying, and the reason nobody wants to work is that nobody has ever wanted to work because work is annoying. And so I finally decided that I could do a live stream as a way of avoiding other work, right? It's a way for me to avoid having to do the more involved work of maybe scripting something in advance, even if I wasn't scripting it in advance, having to edit it. It's tedious just talking about it. And so now I'm doing this. That sound means it's time to take a break. But you understand what I'm saying. work is annoying.
Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe.
I will also note that a lot of the work that gets described as nobody wants to work anymore, a lot of that work is the most tedious work. Sometimes it's the most physically taxing work, right? Sometimes it's picking strawberries is a big one here in California, where people hire usually migrant workers, because literally it's incredibly physically demanding. You're bending all the way over, you're squatting constantly, because strawberries grow really low to the ground. And so picking them for an entire day, many days in a row, takes a huge toll on your body. And so that's the reason that people who own strawberry farms pay other people to pick their strawberries. There is also less physically intensive but really annoying work. Data entry comes to mind. And again, as someone who used to be a data scientist, boy, did I ever try all the time. Anytime there was a data entry task to do, I would either try to offload it. There are different services online where you can hire people to do stuff. Sometimes we had interns, and so I would give that work to the interns. And sometimes I would try to write some code to automate the process, often spending more time to do that than it would take me to just enter it in by hand. But at least it was not quite so mind-numbingly dull. And the reason that all of this requires paying money to other people to do it is because it is so mind-numbingly dull. And I touched on this yesterday too, but we have this idea that people who have a lot of money get that money because they work really hard, they're really, really smart, and therefore they deserve all of the money. So much money, more money than anyone could spend in a lifetime. Enough money, usually not at the single person level, but like a few extremely wealthy people have enough money to end poverty in America. If you take like a lot of wealthy people and take honestly not that much away from them, you could give it to all the poor people in America and there would be no more poverty. But we don't want to pay for that because we want to create an incentive for them to work, which actually means that if they don't work, they can't survive because they won't be able to afford a house. They won't be able to afford food. And maybe we give them some very, very bare bones, miserable experiences and some really cheap, honestly, unhealthy food. And so we say, oh, they have enough and they should just have to work more. But what's happening in these contexts is the people, and I say this as someone who had a C-level job at a company, and like I made not crazy money, but I made a good amount of money in my corporate days. And I believed that I worked really hard. And there is a way in which I worked really hard because I often worked long hours and I had to think a lot. And mental energy is real, right? If you spend your whole day thinking, you will be tired at the end of it. But working really long and working really hard are not actually the same thing. I remember one day I had, because I am the kind of person who has access to this kind of thing, I had a summer internship and I was feeling tired because I had to work 6 days in a row. And some of those days were like 12, 14-hour days. I was tired and I stopped for gas and I went into the gas station and I think I bought an energy drink or something. And the guy behind the counter was like, "How you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm tired. I've had to work like 6 days in a row." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I have been in this gas station 14 hours a day for the last 3 years." That kind of put it into perspective for me because I have made definitely more money than that guy has. And I have not had to be on my feet talking to strangers 14 hours a day for 3 years without a break. So the point I want to make is just that we have these ideas about what kind of labor is valuable and what kind of labor is not. And also we have this idea that, oh, sure, we're giving people money, but they should actually be doing it for the love of what they do. And what actually often happens is a lot of people who make a lot of money either do love what they do. Sometimes they genuinely do enjoy what they do. A lot of times they kind of convince themselves that they love it because they get a lot of money out of it. Right? When I was an economic consultant, it wasn't the most exciting job in the world, and I wasn't making a difference in anyone's life. I was helping some rich companies be a little richer, but I made good money out of that. And I was like, oh, this is a pretty good career. I don't have to do physical labor. I enjoy the people I'm around, and I get paid very well, and the work is kind of interesting. And so I was willing to do this work that was kind of interesting because I enjoyed the other people around me and because I got paid well. It wasn't for the love of economic consulting. It wasn't for the love of the mission of making large corporations slightly richer, making sure that when they got sued for antitrust violations, just helping them pay a little bit less of a fine. That was basically our job. And that is something that our market rewards very heavily because, honestly, the best ways in our economy to make money are either, one, to have a lot of money. You start with a lot of money, and then you invest it and you get returns. And so you make a lot of money off of the lot of money that you already have. That's the best way to make money in our society. The second best way to make money in our society is to help that person who has a lot of money to make a lot more money with their money and take some of that money for yourself. That's what I was doing as an economic consultant. It's what a lot of people in my life, a lot of my friends have become lawyers, and they have families to support. They live in New York. New York is expensive. Not all of them do, but a lot of them do. And so they make a lot of money by helping people who are really rich make a little bit more money. And if you go back, say, 500 years, that role was that was the aristocracy, right? You had the royals and the nobles, or you had the royals, but then you had sort of people, you had like the treasurer for the king, who did very well for themselves. And you had all of the people sort of doing the immediate work for the king, helping the king consolidate even more wealth and power. And so they would get a cut of that wealth and power while, the serfs or the peasants or whoever it was starved or at the very least often struggled to get by. And those aristocrats were not doing it for the love of the mission and the love of the game. Maybe some of them were, maybe some of them convinced themselves they were, but in the same way as today, it's, our system of money allows you to have, at the very least, a materially better life. If you have a lot of money, you could take more vacation. You can do more luxurious vacations. You can do all kinds of things if you have money. And so you are incentivized to get money. And again, the best way to get money is to have money first. And the second best way to get money is to help the people who have the money. And then below that is everything else. And those are the only things where you hear the complaint that nobody wants to work anymore. Those top tiers, the people who are investing, I almost want to put investing in quotes, because basically they're saying like, okay, how do I use my money to get more money? And pretty much it very rarely goes wrong. If you have enough money, you can just make a lot more back. It's not that hard to do. And no one ever says, oh, the billionaires don't want to work anymore, even though most of their wealth accrual, most of the growth in their wealth is coming from the work of other people, right? If I have a lot of money and I invest it in your company, I'm doing some due diligence. I don't want to say I'm doing no work, but you're doing most of the work to build your company. And then at the end of it, I get a big fat interest payment or, my shares are going up in value, or you could do a stock buyback. There's all kinds of ways that I just get more money for having made the decision to give you money, which is not that much work. Because if I am an investor, I'm trying to avoid doing work. I'm trying to just make money off of your work. That's the way the entire thing works. And in that context, I am trying to avoid work because I don't want to work because work is annoying. Because again, it's not just that nobody wants to work anymore for a low wage. It's that nobody at any tier of wealth has ever wanted to work because work is annoying. And so I hope you remember that the next time you hear someone say nobody wants to work anymore. Ask yourself, what work is the person saying that avoiding? What are they trying to not do? And they are so upset and demanding that someone else should want to do it, even though they themselves don't want to do it. Just keep that in mind. Whoop! I just hit my microphone with my ukulele. Well, thank you, friend, for your visit today. Now it's time we both go on our way. The world will still be insane tomorrow, but don't let that fill your heart with sorrow. You can thrive in a desert, just ask a saguaro. Please give to my Patreon. Capitalism is fun. Let's build a world that is good. This is a show for adults. Thank you, friends. I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I will be back on Tuesday. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you.